All in all, we're back down Caister for another session. It's now the 29th. At the minute it's about slack water, maybe start to flood. There's a lot more wind today, but that's westerly, west southwesterly, so that shouldn't be too bad. But we'll give it a go on the flood this time. I just got both rods baited up and out, usual 2-hook flappers with fresh mackerel, frozen, and salted mackerel on the bottom hook. There's a little bit of weed on the beach, but no worse than it was on Boxing Day, so we'll just give it a go. The tide, that's look, it's ebbing slightly, but enough. Has a little bit wind with tide, so there should be very slack water about now, but we'll see. The gear ain't moving. We'll just give another 10 minutes and reel in and find out. Well, I've just reeled in the first rod. No fish. There was one bit of bait left. There's a little bit of weed around the lead, but nothing too bad. I think that must be slack water about now. You can't see the sea flowing anymore, even though the wind is pushing it a little. I was going to go somewhere else today, but I thought there's a bloody good westerly, gusting 35, 40. Well, just slipping in there at Caister with the dunes behind me. That gives me a bit of protection. That's absolutely lovely sitting on this beach. The sun's out. Can't feel the wind in the beach, buddy. What more do you want? And it's not even raining. Well, first cast on the other rod has yielded a little whiting. Not massive, but that's a fish. That's all what matters, isn't it? It's nice to see a few fish, don't matter what size they are anymore. It's just nice to see a few. Well, the flood's definitely through now. The lines start to go round, but there haven't been many fish. I had a couple of casts and only seen one little whiting. Maybe that's the ebb the fish are on, but got to be down here to try. But look at that, a lovely sunny day. You can't fault that, can you? I've been down there in a lot worse weather. Well, I did fear it a bit. As soon as the tides got going, the weeds turned up in force. If that stay like this, it won't be too bad. Just don't think to get anything worse. Just had another little whiting on the bottom hook on the salted mackerel. The problem is that weeds seem to be getting far worse, so I might have to start casting short to try and avoid it. I'll just pull the gear around in a few minutes. There's going to be a hell of a lot of weed here now, unfortunately, for that tide pulling out. They are strong tides, about 2.76 metre tides today. Well, after the last two casts, they were just full of weed. I wasn't banging out far, only about 70-80 yards, and that was just weed everywhere, covering up the hook baits. Pointless really, and that's just pulling them around in seconds. I now brought both the rods in and cast them short, about 35 yards. Let's hope we get a few fish doing it that way, but we can't bang it out, or put it out further, that's a waste of time. But I found the other day there weren't no fish in the short, but we can only try. It's got to be worth a go, innit? That's such a lovely day. There may have been tons of weed, but I have just pulled in another little whiting. It's a small little old pin, but it's better than nothing. There's a hell of a lot of weed on that gear. I just stopped before the lead knot and pick it all clean. But a fish is a fish. Desperate times, but that's what it is. Well, there may be tons of weed, but there's still a few whiting feeding close in, so that's not too bad. At least I'm getting a little bit of reward. I've never taken them for fish cakes, but fish is always a fish at the end of the day. It's far better than nothing, and if you're picking up a lot of weed, you need a little bit of reward at the end of it, don't you? Well, a couple of hours into the flood, a couple of reels in with just weed and nothing else, but got my first dabs of the day. A nice double shot. Can't ask for more than that, one on each hook. The top one doesn't look too bad, healthy thing, but the bottom one's a typical green bogey monster, but that'll do. I'm happy with them. Finally a better whiting on the bottom hook on the salted mackerel. I think the biggest fish, but it's a lovely plump thing, not better than little skinny old pin whiting I was getting earlier. Nice plump fish, must be feeding on a few sprats and put a bit of weight on. Well, after a couple of casts mid-tide or mid-flood, I weren't getting nothing at all, but now suddenly start getting a few pin whitings, so hopefully we'll get more as the tide progress. Because of the first of that flood, there weren't a hell of a lot of fish there. Well, next cast was another little whiting. You can see at the end of the tide, see a bit more fish, or the new end of the tide, see a bit more fish. Hopefully, as the tide eases, we'll get a few more dabs. We had them two today, what surprised me. I thought there'd have a lot more in that. Let's get him back. Well, I hope there'd have been a few more dabs today and a bit better whiting. I thought I'd try on the flood instead of the ebb for a change. Then again, I'm not as disappointed as them poor buggers coming back off holiday, lovely warm weather, and come back to here where it's cold and wet and windy. I'm only jealous because I haven't been on holiday lately. Well, I'm still having to fish short. There's loads of weed there. I'm fishing about 35 yards out. Just still getting the odd pin whiting. Well, I'm getting them. I started to get a few more now, but I'm stopping halfway in to pick weed off the line and then getting another lot on the leader knot. But that's what you got to expect around here. If you had any lot of wind, a bit northerly, cut that weed up off the chalk reef from Norfolk and then dump it in here. And we have to put up with the red weed for a few weeks. It's just life. Well, that's the first double hooker of whiting today. That top one's a cracking whiting. The bottom one's a pin, but the top one's a lovely, fat, good condition fish. So I want a few more of them about there. Cracking, make some good whiting goujons out. Well, I tried about 50 yards out. I had to stop twice while reeling in to get the weed off the line that was jamming in the top ring. Well, that better whiting I just had, that was only about 25 yards out, so I'm casting even shorter now, but it doesn't matter. I seem to still get the better fish, might be in quite tight. Hopefully give it a go. Well, them better plumper whiting seem right on top of the beach. I'm now getting them at 25 yards out max. I think a lot of the time the fish are just behind them breakers after them brown shrimps, and so many people cast over them. Always got to try and whack it out, hit the horizon, but the fish in there, they're where the feed are. If the feed's behind the breakers, that's where the fish will be. Well, that's another double shot of whiting from 20-25 yards out. What prove they can be just behind the breakers, especially with all this weed about. I'm glad they are. Oh, that's one of them unhooked. I'll get the other one unhooked now and then put them both back. They're skinny old buggers really, and it worth keeping. Perched at the end of the tide now and a couple of little old pins, but not for any size. I've had a few nice ones on the trot now, so they've disappeared. But whether it's salted or fresh mackerel doesn't make a difference. Just don't have the quantity of dabs today is what I had the other day, unfortunately. Another little dab and whiting, only 30 yards out, and the weed's still strong, but hopefully on the slack water that'll disappear. Well, now it's getting near high water, the old weeds started to ease off. Just got another little plump whiting, ain't huge, but it's a lot better than them thin old things. Better stamp all together really, like some have been feeding on the sprats and obviously some ain't. Some are stick thin and some are plump little fish. Well, the sun's come out again, it's made it rather enjoyable. Nearly all tide, nearly all fish have been caught 25 yards out. I've never so consistently had fish that close to the beach, but weeds made it unbearable. If you try and cast out any distance at all, just been filling up with weed, but you haven't got to put yourself through it if the fish are behind the breakers. Why fish out far when the fish are too tight? That's the answer, isn't it? Fishing tight. Well, the last cast I just reeled in, there was a minute piece of weed on it, so it must virtually be slack water now, so just now cracked the bait out about 80 yards. Alright, I was getting the fish close in, but that's nice to try something a little bit different in it. I'll only have a few more casts and I'll be packing up anyway. I've been here since low water, so I'll give it a good run. Well, I managed to get a double shot, a bit better whiting and a nice dab. They were caught 25 yards out. For the last few casts, I've got a stick, one rod in 25 yards, and it's been so consistent all day. So not a fish, just 25 yards out. What's handy with all the weed issues, but I'll have one out now, just the last couple. Well, it's now 2:45. I've been down here since about 8, so I've had a good stint of it. I made a reel in a little while. These will be my last casts. Time to call it a day, get them washed and showered, and might have to go out for a pint. Well, the Zara would go first. Might sit on the sofa and fall asleep as soon as I get them and showered. Well, that's the last fish of the day. Last reeling. Tiny little pinwhite, about the size of your thumb. Still, it's better than catching nothing. Well, that's the end of another enjoyable session on Caister Beach near the lifeboat shed. Nothing huge, but another scratching day, getting a regular supply of whiting dabs. You can't complain about the small stuff, winter fishing really. If you only want to catch big fish, you might as well pack in beach fishing on this coast in the winter. You don't get very much big stuff now anymore. That's all changed from summer to summer now. Summer fishing's far better than winter. Well, thanks very much for watching. See you next time.